I uncovered a notebook my stepbrother kept, filled with plans to destroy me, down to my coworkers' names. I told myself I was safe, but when I heard the sound of a gun, everything changed. Welcome to Reddit Toxic Family Telltales channel. New episode every day. I gave my unemployed stepbrother a high-paying job and even free money. And what did he do in return? He spent months harassing me and plotting to get me fired. He had no idea that this was the very last chance I was ever going to give him. Growing up, my stepbrother was always the golden child. And honestly, I didn't mind it. When my parents ripped up my report card because I had a mix of A's and B's, and then threw a whole celebration for my stepbrother Tyler, who barely scraped by with straight C's, I clapped along for him. I told myself, good for him. He needs this more than I do. Even when I got chewed out at the dinner table for being too quiet or ungrateful, while Tyler got an extra slice of cake just for carrying his plate to the sink, I swallowed it down and smiled. I told myself this favoritism, this ridiculous double standard, would one day work in my favor. And deep down I knew it would eventually drive a wedge between us. Turns out I was right on both counts. By the time high school ended, I graduated with honors, fueled by the pressure of always being not enough. That inferiority complex became my engine. Tyler, meanwhile? He didn't even make it to graduation. He dropped out junior year. I moved out the second I turned 18, paid my own rent, and started carving out my own path. Tyler? He was already drowning in legal debt by 17. When I left, my parents basically cut me off. No calls, no holiday invites, nothing. And you know what? I returned the favor. I didn't miss them. The only connection I maintained was sliding Tyler $200 in cash every couple of months so he wouldn't bleed our parents completely dry. Beyond that, we didn't talk. All I knew was he somehow landed a supervisor role at a McDonald's. And honestly, that suited me fine. I wanted zero updates from them. I waited years before showing my face again. Years of grinding, of building my life from scratch. By the time I reached out, I had a degree, a stable career, a condo, and even a car I was proud of. I thought maybe, just maybe, walking in with all that would finally earn me some respect. Maybe Thanksgiving would be different. Instead, it turned into one of the most unforgettable nights of my life, for all the wrong reasons. I kept it low-key when I showed up. Old Navy clothes, nothing flashy. But tucked in my jacket pocket? A check worth 15 grand. And beyond that, an actual job offer for Tyler, a position at the bank where I worked, starting salary of $60,000 a year. It was everything I wish someone had once handed me. My stepdad opened the door and the sight almost knocked the air out of me. He looked decades older. My mom, on the other hand, had frozen her face with Botox to the point it barely moved. Still, they smiled and welcomed me in. I didn't trust it, not for a second. We all sat down in the living room, me, my parents, and Tyler, and it didn't take long for their fake kindness to slip. We did the usual catching up, and I learned Tyler had been fired from McDonald's after just a year. Since then? Totally unemployed. And as he admitted it, I thought, this is it. This is my opening. This is where I tell him about the job. So I started, well, I actually work at a bank and we're hiring right now. Before I could even finish, Tyler cut me off with the most smug, mocking tone. Oh, look at me. I get paid to wear a suit and play with a calculator. I froze. Blinked at him. My parents? They burst out laughing like it was the funniest thing they'd ever heard. I just sat there in disbelief, thinking, 8 years. It's been 8 years. Surely he's not still acting like this. I brushed it off. Tried to continue. But every time I opened my mouth, he'd make some ridiculous face or mutter desk monkey under his breath. That's when it hit me. Tyler wasn't a victim. He wasn't misunderstood. He was just a loser. A bitter, jealous, small man who never grew up. So I scrapped the idea of the job offer. Instead, I slid the $15,000 check across the coffee table. That was still something, right? But instead of a thank you or even a simple nod, he leaned back and sneered. Bet your dead dad's real proud. You turned into a parasite. My heart dropped. My face burned hot with rage. My fists clenched so tight my nails dug into my palms. I stood, ready to confront him. And what did he do? He bolted. Ran straight to the bathroom and locked the door like a child. My parents stayed rooted to the couch, eyes glued to the TV, pretending none of this was happening. I walked up to the door, calm but seething, and started unlocking it from the outside. Hey, Tyler, I called. Did you know I was going to offer you a job today? A real one. 60 grand starting salary. Silence. Guess you'd rather sit around all day, living in your childhood bedroom, doing things you can't even admit out loud to women who don't even know you exist. Still silence. I didn't bother pushing the door open. I just left. A small part of me regretted letting him keep the check. But mostly, I felt at peace, knowing I'd done more for him than anyone else ever had. What I didn't know, what I couldn't have known, was that Tyler didn't want the check. He didn't want the job. What he wanted was to take me down. And that's when everything really started. I didn't realize it at the time, but my words had cut Tyler deeper than I thought. So deep, in fact, that he decided to make it his personal mission to tear down everything I'd worked for. It started small. About a week later, I began getting strange calls at work. Someone would ask for me by name, and then hang up the second I answered. At first, I thought it was just some telemarketer glitch. But then my work inbox blew up, hundreds of welcome and confirm your subscription emails from every adult site imaginable. Not my personal email, my work email. I spent half a day cleaning it out, changing passwords, locking down accounts. Annoying, but survivable. I convinced myself it was a one-off prank. But then the looks started. My neighbors, people I'd exchanged polite hellos with in the hall, started giving me side eyes. Whispering. Crossing the hall to avoid me. That's when I found out why. Someone had plastered flyers all over the building claiming I was running some kind of illegal business out of my condo. Full name. Unit number. Bold black letters. I knew instantly who it was. Tyler. But how had he even gotten my address? The check I'd given him only had my bank's info, not my home. And then it hit me like a gut punch. Last year, my mom had asked for my address to send a Christmas card. A card that never arrived. Of course. She'd handed it straight to him. From there, things escalated like wildfire. Packages started arriving at my door, expensive electronics, luxury items I hadn't ordered. COD, which meant I either had to pay on the spot or refuse them. My car got keyed in the garage. 3 nights in a row someone called in fake noise complaints against me. All of that was irritating but manageable. The breaking point came when my boss called me into his office. His voice was gentle but firm. Is everything okay at home? I froze. He explained that someone claiming to be my stepbrother had called HR, saying I was having a mental health crisis and might need checking on. That could have destroyed my career. My reputation. My credibility. If my boss hadn't known me better, that might have been the end of everything I'd worked for. That was it. I was done playing defense. I needed to know just how far Tyler was willing to go, and I needed to make him realize that every move he made against me was going to backfire hard. The days of being the quiet, polite step-sibling were over. If Tyler wanted a war, he had no idea who he was messing with. But I couldn't just storm into my mom's house and start screaming. That's exactly what he'd expect. He'd spin it into some she's unstable story and my parents would eat it up. No, I had to be smart. Strategic. First step, lock down my digital life. Every password got changed. 2-factor authentication everywhere. I set up Google alerts for my name just in case anything else popped up. I called my bank, my credit card companies, even the credit bureaus. Fraud alerts on everything. If Tyler wanted to open accounts under my name, he was going to run headfirst into a wall. Next, physical security. I had a quiet word with my building manager, kept it vague, just said I had a troubled family member who might cause trouble. He promised to alert security and make sure no packages got signed for without me. Then I ordered a cheap Ring camera for my front door. Nothing fancy, but enough to see who came knocking. With my defenses shored up, it was time to go on the offense. Not by confronting him outright, but by gathering intel. I needed to know what he was up to. That Saturday morning I drove back to my hometown. Parked a few blocks from my parents' house. The neighborhood looked exactly the same, cracked sidewalks, peeling paint on the same houses, that heavy stillness of a place where nothing ever changes. I sat in my car for a while, questioning what the hell I was even doing. And then the front door opened. Tyler stepped outside. Same stained sweatpants he'd worn at Thanksgiving, now paired with a grimy hoodie. He looked like a walking cautionary tale. I slid down in my seat as he shuffled past, eyes glued to the ground, not even glancing my way. I followed him at a distance. He hit up the corner convenience store, bought cigarettes and a case of the cheapest beer they sold, and started heading back. But instead of going inside the house, he veered around the side yard toward the old shed. That shed had always been for the lawn mower, some rakes, maybe a busted snow shovel. My parents never used it for anything else. But Tyler pulled out a key, unlocked the door, and slipped inside. 20 minutes later, he emerged, glancing around before heading back into the house. And suddenly I knew. Something was going on in that shed. And I needed to find out what. I waited until the next morning when both my mom's and Tom's cars were gone. Sunday breakfasts at the diner had been their ritual since I was a kid. Pancakes, coffee, the same waitress who knew their order by heart. I figured Tyler would either be passed out in bed or hypnotized by whatever video game he was glued to these days. That was my chance. The shed was what I was after. The lock was pitiful, something you could buy at a dollar store. Thanks to a couple of YouTube tutorials, it didn't take me long to snap it open. And what I found inside sent a chill crawling up my spine. This wasn't some storage shed anymore. Tyler had turned it into his own little command center. A desk with an old dust-caked laptop. A printer humming faintly in the corner. Stacks of paper, sticky notes scattered everywhere. And on the walls? Pictures of me. Screenshots from my old social media before I locked it down. Printouts of my work profile. Even a map with my condo circled in angry red marker. It felt less like a shed and more like walking into the set of some low-budget stalker thriller. But the thing that froze me in place was a spiral notebook sitting dead center on the desk. Scribbled on the front in messy block letters, Operation Payback. Real creative, Tyler. I flipped it open. Page after page of his schemes. A checklist of what he'd already done, the flyers, the calls, the subscriptions, and then plans for more. Some were childish, like ordering pizzas to my condo at 3 a.m. Others made my skin crawl. He had jotted down the names of several of my coworkers, little notes about them, and possible ways to contact them. That's when it stopped being family drama and crossed into full-blown harassment. I snapped photos of everything with my phone, heart pounding the whole time. Then, carefully, I put everything back exactly where it was. Same angles, same placement. If he suspected I'd been there, this game would get even uglier. I relocked the shed and slipped out, pulse hammering as I drove away. On the way home, I called Barbara, a close friend of mine who worked in IT security. She'd always been my go-to tech guru. I explained what was happening, leaving out most of the messy family details. Her response was blunt. This guy sounds like a total loser. But even losers can cause serious damage. You need to protect yourself. That night, she came over with her laptop and a mountain of cables. We ordered Thai food, cracked open sodas, and spent the whole evening building digital armor. New layers of security on every account, fresh firewalls, ways to trace any more digital harassment back to its source. Barbara worked like a surgeon, precise, calm, and with a little smirk every time she shut down another potential attack. You know, she said between bites of pad thai, you could just report him to the cops right now. Harassment charges would stick. I shook my head. Not yet. I want to see what he tries next. She raised an eyebrow. You realize you're playing with fire, right? Maybe I was. But something in me burned hotter. This wasn't just about defense anymore, I wanted to be the one holding the matches. For a while it worked. The next couple of weeks were eerily calm. No strange calls. No bogus packages. No keyed cars. I checked my Ring camera footage obsessively, but Tyler was a ghost. The silence was almost worse than the chaos. Too quiet. And then my phone rang at work. Unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Hello, is this Alexandra? A woman's voice asked. Yes, who's calling? This is Karen from Credit Secure. We've detected unusual activity on your accounts. Someone attempted to open 3 credit cards in your name yesterday. My stomach dropped to the floor. I spent my entire lunch break on hold with fraud departments, confirming the attempts and shutting everything down. Thankfully, the fraud alerts I'd set up blocked the accounts before they could be opened. But Tyler had clearly leveled up. That night, my phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't recognize. Having credit problems? Maybe you should be more careful who you piss off. My blood ran hot. I didn't reply. Just saved the number as evidence. But my patience? Gone. This wasn't a game anymore. The next day at work, I couldn't focus. My eyes skimmed spreadsheets, but my brain was somewhere else, back in that shed, picturing Tyler's greasy handwriting spelling out ways to ruin me. On my break, I checked my personal email, hoping for some distraction. Instead, I found a message from my mom. Subject line, we need to talk about Tyler. My hands shook as I opened it. Alexandra, I don't know what's going on between you and your stepbrother, but he's been acting strange since your visit. Could you please call me? Mom. At least she finally said, stepbrother. Small victories. I didn't call her. I wasn't about to wade back into that swamp just yet. But reading that email solidified something for me. If Tyler wanted to play dirty, fine. I could play dirty too. The difference? I'd do it smarter. The first step in my plan? Dig into Tyler's past. I called up the McDonald's where he used to work and asked to speak with the manager. I introduced myself as a potential employer doing a reference check. The manager, a guy named Richard, actually laughed out loud. Reference for Tyler? He scoffed. Lady, the only reference I'd give that guy is to stay far away. Worst employee I've ever had. Showed up late, left early, stole from the register, harassed half the female staff. We didn't even officially fire him. He got arrested in the parking lot for selling weed. After that, we just stopped putting him on the schedule. I thanked Richard and hung up, shaking my head. Interesting. That was a very different version of events compared to the jealous manager story my mom had fed me. Time for step 2. I called Tyler's phone from a burner number I'd set up. Yo, he answered. I disguised my voice, lowering it just a little. Hey, this Tyler? I heard you might be able to hook me up. Silence. Then suspicion in his voice, but also interest. Who's this? Name's Quinn, I said smoothly. Jason from the auto shop gave me your number. Said you could help me out with some party supplies. A pause then. Yeah, I can help you out. What are you looking for? Bingo. We arranged to meet at the convenience store near my parents' house that weekend. My heart was pounding when I hung up. I had no intention of actually buying anything from my loser stepbrother. I just wanted confirmation that he was still dealing. The week crawled by, quiet but tense. On Friday, I took a day off work, drove to my hometown, and checked into a dingy little motel under a fake name. Paranoid? Maybe. But better paranoid than sorry. Saturday morning, I parked across from the convenience store and waited. Right on time, Tyler showed up. He looked around nervously, pacing, pulling at his hoodie. I kept my baseball cap low, sunglasses hiding my face, window cracked so I could hear. After 10 minutes, he pulled out his phone. A minute later, my burner started ringing. I ignored it. He called again. And again. Then a text buzzed in, "Where you at?" I didn't answer. I watched as he grew agitated, swearing under his breath, pacing like a caged animal. Finally, after 15 minutes of no response, he stomped off, back toward my parents' house. But instead of going inside, he disappeared into that shed again. I gave it a little time, then crept after him, my phone recording. This time, I didn't go inside. I crouched near the small, grimy window, heart hammering, and pressed record. Inside, Tyler was ranting to himself. Stupid no-show. Wasting my time. Could have been a setup. Whatever, need to focus on the plan anyway. I heard him shuffle papers, then his voice again, low but chilling. Then Alex won't know what hit her. By the time I'm done, she'll wish she never came back. And then, a sound that made my blood freeze. The metallic click of a gun being handled. My breath caught. My phone nearly slipped from my hand, but I forced myself to keep it steady. Tyler laughed to himself, muttering, "Should have seen her face when I mentioned Dad. Always was a sensitive little." I'd heard enough. I backed away slowly, quietly, until I reached my car. My hands shook as I copied the recording to my laptop. Then I called Barbara. "I think my stepbrother might actually be dangerous," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Define dangerous," she replied cautiously. "Like, gun dangerous. Planning something serious dangerous." She was quiet for a long moment. "Alex, you need to go to the police." "I know, but..." No buts, she cut me off. This isn't family drama anymore. If you're scared for your safety, you have to report it. She was right, of course. But part of me still hesitated. Going to the police would make everything official. It would drag my parents into the mess. It would explode in ways I wasn't sure I was ready for. And then my phone pinged. A notification from my condo's security app. Someone was at my door. The camera feed showed a delivery person holding a large package. I hadn't ordered anything. I immediately called the security desk. This is Alexandra, Unit 412. I'm out of town. I'm not expecting any deliveries. Do not accept any packages for me. The guard hesitated. Too late, ma'am. The delivery person said it was perishable and needed an immediate signature. Your stepbrother signed for it. My stomach lurched. My stepbrother? I don't have a stepbrother in town. Another pause. Tall guy, heavy-set beard. Said he was house-sitting for you while you were away. He had a key and everything. I thought I was going to throw up. That man is not authorized. He's impersonating family. He does not have permission to be in my unit. Call the police immediately. I hung up and dialed Barbara, panic in my voice. Tyler's at my condo. He has a key. Security is calling the cops. Can you get over there? I'm on my way, she said instantly. I jumped in my car for the 3-hour drive back home. Every mile felt like an eternity. Barbara kept me updated by text. The police had arrived, but Tyler was gone. The perishable delivery he'd left behind? A box of rotting fish dumped on my kitchen counter. Classic Tyler. Childish. Disgusting. The police wrote up a report but shrugged. Nothing stolen, minimal damage. Their advice? Change my locks and file for a restraining order. By the time I pulled into my building, Barbara had already called a locksmith. My door had a brand new lock. She was waiting for me on the balcony because the inside of my condo still reeked of rotten fish. I sat down beside her, exhausted, furious, and shaking with adrenaline. I need to end this, I told her, staring out at the city lights. Not just stop him this time. End it for good. Make sure he can never do anything like this again. Barbara looked at me carefully. What are you thinking? Something legal, I said firmly. But effective. The next day was Sunday. My parents would be at their usual diner breakfast, the same pancakes and bacon routine they'd stuck to for decades. Tyler? He'd almost certainly be sleeping in, dead to the world until noon. Perfect. That gave me time to make some calls. First, I rang up a friend who worked at the DMV. Nothing shady, just a simple favor. I asked her to check something for me. Sure enough, she confirmed what I suspected. Tyler's license had been suspended 6 months ago. Unpaid tickets. Driving without insurance. Yet I had literally seen him behind the wheel of my mom's car just the day before. Illegal, reckless, and exactly like him. Next, I called up an old college buddy who'd gone into law and was now a paralegal. I explained the situation, harassment, identity theft, the break-in at my condo. She laid it out clearly. Yes, I had more than enough evidence to pursue a restraining order. More than enough. Then I dialed my boss. I kept it short, just said I had family issues to take care of. He didn't pry, thank God, and granted me Monday off. And finally, I called my mom. She answered on the third ring, her voice tentative. Alexandra? Is everything all right? Not really, Mom. We need to talk about Tyler in person. Can I come over tomorrow morning? There was a long pause, the sound of her breathing heavy in my ear. I suppose that would be fine. Tom will be at work, but... Good. I'd rather talk to you alone first anyway. I'll be there at 10. The rest of Sunday I spent preparing. I gathered everything, the photos from Tyler's so-called Operation Payback Shed, the screenshots of the fraud attempts, the recording of him handling what sounded like a gun, even the security footage of him waltzing into my condo. I backed it all up to the cloud, printed copies, and slipped them into a neat, organized folder. If Tyler had taught me anything, it was to be thorough. Monday morning I dressed with purpose. A simple blouse and slacks, professional but not threatening. I didn't want my mom to feel like I was barging in for a fight, though part of me still blamed her for enabling Tyler all these years. When I arrived, she looked nervous. Her hair was done, makeup carefully applied, and she was wearing clothes I hadn't seen her in for years, nice, presentable, like she'd been preparing for some kind of inspection. The house smelled of lemon cleaner, every surface gleaming. It reminded me of how she used to scrub the place spotless whenever she knew my stepdad would be home soon. Is Tyler here? I asked, stepping inside. She shook her head quickly. No. He went out early. Said he had some business to take care of. Business? With Tyler, that could mean anything. Selling weed, vandalizing my car again, who knows. I'd parked a block away just in case. We sat stiffly in the living room, perched at opposite ends of the couch. My mom kept twisting her wedding ring around her finger, an old nervous tick. Mom, I said finally, pulling out the folder. I need to show you something. Tyler has been harassing me since Thanksgiving. It started as pranks, but it's escalated, identity theft, breaking into my condo, stalking me. Her face shifted rapidly, confusion, disbelief, defensiveness, and then, finally, a kind of weary resignation. He's been troubled, she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. Ever since you came back, he feels like you're showing off. Like you're making him look bad. I couldn't help it, I almost laughed. Mom, I gave him $15,000. I offered him a job. How is that me trying to make him look bad? She didn't answer. She couldn't. I laid everything out on the coffee table, the photos of the shed, the screenshots of fraudulent credit applications, the security footage of him in my condo. With every piece of evidence, she seemed to shrink deeper into the cushions, as if she could sink far enough to disappear. Finally, she whispered, "I don't know what you expect me to do." "I expect you to stop enabling him," I said firmly. "He's not a child anymore. He's an adult making choices, to hurt me, to hurt others, and I've had enough." I pulled out one final document. "This is a restraining order application. I'm filing it today. Tyler will be legally barred from contacting me, from coming near my home, my job, anything. If he violates it, he'll be arrested." Tears welled in her eyes and slid silently down her face. Not loud sobs. Just quiet, defeated tears. "He's my son. And I'm your daughter," I cut in, my voice steady. Stronger than I felt inside. "But you've never protected me from him. So now I'm protecting myself." The front door slammed. Both of us jumped. Tyler stormed in, red-faced and furious. "What the hell are you doing here?" he demanded, his eyes blazing. I stood, keeping the coffee table between us. "Talking to Mom. About your little hobby of harassing me." His gaze dropped to the papers spread across the table, then flicked to our mom's tear-streaked face. Something inside him snapped. "You think you can just waltz back in here and turn her against me? After abandoning this family for years? You don't know what we've been through." "Tyler, calm down," Mom whispered, but her voice was paper-thin. He didn't even look at her. "I'm sick of you thinking you're better than everyone," he snarled. "Parading in here with your fancy job in your condo, looking down on us." I kept my voice even. "I never looked down on you. I tried to help you." "Help me?" His laugh was sharp and bitter. "You left me here. With them. You know what it's like being the only one left for them to tear apart? The only one to take the pressure, the criticism, the control? You escaped. And I got double." That wasn't what I expected to hear. For a moment, a split second, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. But then I remembered the flyers, the fish, the gun. "That doesn't justify what you've done," I said firmly. "The harassment. The identity theft. Breaking into my home." His expression shifted, anger melting into a twisted smirk. "Prove it was me." I pointed to the evidence on the table. "Already did." The smirk faltered. He looked down, then back up, his eyes hard. "So what? You gonna call the cops on me now?" "If I have to." He took a slow step toward me, and I instinctively stepped back. That's when I noticed the bulge in his jacket pocket. My stomach flipped. Was that the gun I'd heard him handling in the shed? Mom's eyes widened. She saw it too. "Tyler, what's in your pocket?" He ignored her, his glare locked on me. "You always think you're so smart, don't you?" He spat. "Little Miss Perfect. With her perfect life." "My life isn't perfect, Tyler," I shot back, voice steady even though my hands were trembling. "I just worked for what I have, instead of trying to tear everyone else down." "Worked for it?" He exploded, his voice shaking the walls. Mom flinched. I flinched. "You had every advantage. Dad always liked you better. Teachers gave you breaks. Even when you left, it was easier for you because no one expected a damn thing from you." I frowned, utterly confused. Tom never liked me better. He barely tolerated me. That was the truth. Growing up, I'd always believed my stepdad resented me, cold, critical, always making me feel like a burden. It never crossed my mind that his attitude might have changed after I left. "Not Tom," Tyler snapped. His voice cracked with something raw, almost desperate. "My dad. Your stepdad. You weren't the one stuck with his impossible standards. You weren't the one compared to his brilliant stepdaughter every damn day after you left." I blinked, thrown off balance. That was not the twist I expected. I glanced at Mom, searching her face. She couldn't even look at me. "Is that true?" I asked, my voice low. She exhaled slowly, almost a sigh of defeat. "Tom changed after you moved out. He was proud of you, Alexandra. Proud of how independent you were." He started wondering why Tyler couldn't be more like that. For a moment, I nearly laughed at the irony. All those years, I thought Tyler had been the golden child. And all along, after I left, he'd been suffocating under the shadow of me. But even if that explained his bitterness, it didn't excuse his behavior. Not the harassment. Not the break-ins. Not the fraud. "Tyler," I said carefully, noticing his hand drift toward his pocket again, "whatever happened in the past, it doesn't justify what you're doing now. This needs to stop." His eyes burned into mine. "Or what?" "Or I'll file this restraining order today. I'll press charges for identity theft, harassment, and breaking and entering. That's serious jail time, Tyler." For a moment, the air hung heavy. Then, in one swift motion, he yanked his hand out of his pocket. My stomach lurched, bracing for a gun. But instead, he was holding my mom's car keys. "Good luck proving anything," he sneered. "I'm out of here." "Tyler, wait." Mom's voice cracked, but he ignored her, storming toward the door. And then it hit me. My DMV friend's words. Suspended license. No insurance. Another charge. "If you drive that car, it'll be another crime on the list," I said evenly. He froze, hand on the doorknob. Slowly, he turned, his face twisted with rage. "What the hell are you talking about?" "Your license," I said calmly. "It was suspended 6 months ago. I checked." His eyes went wide with fury. "You checked my license? What gives you the right?" "The same right you thought you had when you dug through my credit history," I shot back. "Except I wasn't trying to destroy your future." For a heartbeat, I thought he might hurl the keys at me. His hand twitched. But instead, he slammed them down hard on the entryway table and stormed out the door on foot, the echo rattling through the house. The silence that followed was suffocating. My mom sat slumped on the couch, shoulders trembling. He needs help, I whispered. Real help. The kind you and Tom can't give him. Her eyes were red when she looked at me. She nodded slowly. I know. We've known for a while. But every time we bring it up he threatens to leave. And I can't lose another child. Her words landed like a stone in my chest. Another child? Was that what I'd been all this time, lost? Abandoned in her mind? I swallowed hard and pushed the thought away. You're not helping him by letting this continue, I said firmly. He's destroying his own life. And he's trying to destroy mine. Her voice broke. What are you going to do? I gathered the evidence, sliding it neatly back into my folder. That depends on Tyler. If he stops now completely, I won't file the restraining order or press charges. But if there's one more incident, I'll take everything to the police. I stood to leave, but Mom reached out and caught my hand. Alexandra, her voice trembled. I'm sorry. For everything. For not protecting you when you were younger. For letting it get this far with Tyler. It was the first real apology I'd ever heard from her. My throat tightened, but words failed me. I just gave a small nod and gently slipped my hand free. I'll let myself out, I whispered. Walking to my car, I felt lighter. Not because I'd won, but because for once I hadn't backed down. I had stood my ground. The ball was in Tyler's court now. Or so I thought. 2 days later, I was at my desk at work when my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I picked up. Hello, is this Alexandra? A woman's voice. Yes, who's calling? This is Patricia from Westside Hospital. We have your stepbrother Tyler here in the emergency room. You're listed as his emergency contact. My heart skipped a beat. Is he okay? What happened? He's stable, she assured me, but he's been in an accident. He's asking for you. My stomach twisted. Was this real, or just another one of Tyler's elaborate schemes? I grabbed my bag, told my boss it was a family emergency, and raced to the hospital. My mind was spinning the whole drive. Had Tyler really been hurt? Or was this just another trap he'd set, another way to drag me back into his chaos? Only one way to find out. When I arrived at the ER, I was guided down a hallway that smelled of antiseptic and faint coffee. A nurse pulled back a curtain and there he was, Tyler. He looked smaller than I remembered. Pale. Gaunt. His right arm was strapped in a cast, and a deep gash cut across his forehead, stitched but still raw. For the first time in a long time, he didn't look like the angry, vengeful stepbrother who had made my life miserable. He just looked broken. You came, he murmured when his eyes landed on me, surprise flickering across his face. I stayed near the foot of the bed, arms crossed. What happened? He shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my gaze. Tried to cross the highway on foot. Wasn't paying attention. His voice dropped as he added, clipped by a truck. Why were you crossing the highway in the first place? I pressed. He shrugged his good shoulder as if the answer was meaningless. Going to a friend's place. Before I could respond, a nurse swept in, brisk and efficient, checking his vitals. The doctor wants to keep him overnight for observation, she explained. Because of the concussion. Do you have his insurance information? Tyler froze. Panic flashed across his face. I told you. I don't have insurance. The nurse's eyes shifted to me, expectant. My heart twisted. Every rational part of me screamed to walk away. To let him deal with the consequences of his own choices. But standing there, seeing him weak, bandaged and fragile, it stirred something I hated admitting. This was still the boy I'd grown up alongside. The boy shaped by the same dysfunctional walls I once called home. I exhaled slowly, pulled out my wallet and said, I'll handle the paperwork. Can you give us a minute? When she left, the silence was thick. Tyler wouldn't meet my eyes. You don't have to pay for this, he muttered. I know. I can't pay you back. I know that too. The air between us was heavy, filled with all the years of resentment, silence, and chaos. Finally, he asked the question that seemed to weigh on him most. Why'd you come? After everything I did to you? I considered carefully, then answered honestly. Because despite everything, you're still family. And I needed to know if you were actually hurt, or if this was just another one of your traps. A corner of his mouth twitched, almost a smile. Fair enough. I leaned closer, making sure he met my eyes this time. My voice was low, firm, deliberate. Listen to me. This is it. My last act of goodwill. If you ever try to mess with my life again, I won't hesitate. I'll use every shred of evidence I've got, and I'll bury you legally. Do you understand? Slowly, he nodded. Yeah, I get it. Good, I said, standing straighter. I'm going to pay your hospital bill. I'm giving you one final chance to turn things around. What you do with it is on you. As I turned to leave, his voice stopped me. Alex? I looked back. What? His face softened just slightly. I'm sorry about the dad comment at Thanksgiving. That was too far. It wasn't a full apology. It wasn't nearly enough. But it was something. I gave a small nod and walked away. At the billing desk, I signed the forms, left my contact information, and settled his hospital account. And then I stepped outside. The sunlight hit my face, warm and blinding. For the first time in years, I felt free. Free of the weight of my family's dysfunction. Free of Tyler's chaos. Whether this was the end of his revenge, or just a temporary truce before the next storm, I didn't know. But I did know one thing. I was done being a victim. I had built my own life, a career, a home, a future, and no one, not Tyler, not my mother, not Tom, could take that away from me. Leaving the hospital that day, I couldn't tell if I'd just made the biggest mistake of my life, or finally broken through to Tyler. A part of me kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, wondering if this whole accident had been some elaborate scam. But according to the doctors, the concussion was real. The broken arm was real. The pain, the injuries, they weren't staged. And so I tried to put Tyler out of my mind. I focused on my work. On my own life. I'd paid his bills, given him one last chance, and made it crystal clear there would never be another. The ball was in his court now. And for once I felt ready for whatever came next. About a week after the hospital visit, I got a text notification. It was from my mom. "Have you heard from Tyler?" Apparently, he hadn't come home after being discharged. I told her I hadn't heard a word and suggested maybe he was staying with a friend. She didn't sound convinced, but she thanked me anyway. 2 weeks slipped by after that. 2 quiet weeks. No strange calls. No bogus packages. No credit card fraud attempts. No Tyler. For the first time in months, I started to breathe again. Maybe, just maybe, the accident had finally rattled him enough to change. Then, on a Saturday afternoon, my doorbell rang. I glanced at my phone, pulling up the security camera feed. And there he was. Tyler. But not the Tyler I'd grown used to, the sneering, cocky, destructive stepbrother who seemed to live for tormenting me. This version looked different. He stood outside my door in clean jeans and a button-up shirt that didn't look like it had come from the bottom of his laundry pile. His arm was still in a cast, his face pale and drawn, with dark circles etched under his eyes. For a moment I considered not answering. Pretending I wasn't home. But curiosity and maybe something else got the better of me. I cracked open the door, leaving the security chain latched. "What are you doing here?" I asked cautiously. "Can I come in?" He said, avoiding my eyes. "I just want to talk." I didn't move. "Last time you were here you left rotting fish on my counter." He winced, almost flinched. "Yeah, I know. I'm sorry about that. And about everything else." He looked terrible. Thinner. Nervous. A shell of the arrogant guy who'd been tormenting me for months. Against my better judgment, I closed the door long enough to undo the chain. As I opened it fully, I added, "For the record, I'm recording this conversation on my phone." Tyler nodded without protest and stepped inside. He didn't even sit down, just stood there in the living room, fidgeting with the edge of his cast. "So?" I prompted, breaking the awkward silence. He cleared his throat. I wanted to tell you I won't be bothering you anymore. I got a job. Actually, 2 jobs. Morning shift at a warehouse. Evening shifts at a gas station." That caught me off guard. "Okay. Good for you. And I'm paying Mom back for the money she's loaned me. Starting with the car insurance I let lapse." I narrowed my eyes. "What brought this on?" He hesitated. "The accident, I guess. And," he shifted uncomfortably, "after I got out of the hospital I had to sleep in my car for a few nights. Had some time to think." That made me blink. "Wait, you've been living in your car? Why?" His voice was flat. "Tom changed the locks. Said I couldn't come back until I got my act together, and stopped harassing his stepdaughter." I froze. Tom, the man who'd been cold and critical my entire childhood, had actually stood up for me. I didn't know what to make of that. "Anyway," Tyler said, his voice quiet now, "I just wanted to say I'm sorry. For real this time. The stuff I did, it was messed up. You didn't deserve it." Suspicion coiled in my chest, but for once he sounded sincere. "Where are you staying now?" I asked. "Got a room in a house with some other guys. It's not great, but it's better than sleeping in a Honda Civic." Against my will, a twinge of sympathy slipped in. "Do you need money?" He shook his head quickly. "No. That's not why I came." With his good hand, he pulled an envelope from his pocket and held it out. I took it warily, slid it open, and froze. Inside was cash. A few hundred, maybe. "What's this for?" "It's the start of paying you back, for the hospital bill and for the check you gave me at Thanksgiving." I blew through that money like an idiot. I stared at him, trying to read his expression. "Tyler, I don't need." "I know you don't need it," he cut in. "But I need to pay it back." His eyes finally met mine, steady for the first time in years. "I'm trying to fix things. Not just with you. With everything." I placed the envelope gently on the coffee table. "Keep it. Use it to get on your feet. But if you really want to pay me back, stay on this path. That would mean more than money ever could." He looked like he wanted to argue, but after a beat he just nodded. "Okay." As he turned toward the door, the words slipped out of me before I could stop them. "Do you want to grab coffee sometime?" He blinked, surprised. "Not today. But maybe next week." The look on his face, equal parts stunned and relieved, almost made me laugh. "Yeah," I said softly. "Maybe next week." After he left, I sat on the couch, staring at the envelope on the table, emotions swirling. I wasn't naive. I knew one conversation didn't undo years of dysfunction. I knew there were no guarantees. But for the first time in a long time it felt like maybe, just maybe, there was a chance for something better. I called Barbara to give her an update. "So he just showed up and apologized? Just like that?" she asked, disbelief thick in her voice. "I know it sounds weird," I admitted, pacing my living room, but he seemed different, like genuinely humbled. Barbara didn't miss a beat. "Alex, people don't change overnight." "It wasn't overnight," I countered. "It's been almost a month since the hospital. He was homeless for part of that time. Sleeping in his car. Maybe that finally shook something loose." Barbara sighed. "Just keep your guard up. One apology doesn't erase everything." She was right. But for the first time in years I felt something I hadn't associated with Tyler in a long, long time, hope. The next week, we met at a coffee shop halfway between my condo and his new place. I spotted him before he saw me, sitting in the corner, nervously shredding a napkin into tiny pieces. When I walked in, he straightened like a kid caught doing something wrong. The cast was still on his arm, but he looked cleaner, sharper, even if the dark circles under his eyes hadn't left. We made small talk at first. The weather. His jobs. My work. I gave him the short, sanitized version, not ready to let him in too deep. Finally I asked, "So how are Mom and Tom?" Tyler grimaced. "Mom's upset that I moved out. Keeps begging me to come back. Tom, weirdly enough, he's been supportive. Said it was good for me to stand on my own." I blinked. That doesn't sound like the Tom I remember. Tyler hesitated, his voice quieter. "After your visit, there was a blow-up. Biggest fight I've ever seen between them. Mom defended me. Tom said I needed real consequences. It got ugly." A pang of guilt stabbed through me. "I didn't mean to cause problems." "You didn't," he said quickly. "That was building for years. Besides, Tom's been in therapy the past couple years, working on his anger." I nearly dropped my coffee. "Tom? In therapy?" Tyler let out a short, bitter laugh. "Yeah. Doctor told him he had to get help or he'd keel over from a heart attack. Turns out being an angry jerk isn't great for your health." We both sat with that revelation in silence. Then Tyler added, "Honestly, I think seeing the evidence of what I'd been doing to you was a wake-up call. For all of us. For me too." The conversation shifted. We talked about childhood memories, the good ones, few and far between, and the bad ones, which came easier. For the first time, we weren't enemies or rivals. We were just two adults unpacking the mess we'd grown up in. "You know what's messed up?" Tyler said as we stood to leave. "I was so jealous of you for getting out. But I never even tried to leave myself." "It's not easy," I admitted. "When everyone's telling you that you'll never make it on your own, it feels impossible." He nodded, thoughtful. "Yeah. But I'm figuring it out now." We agreed to meet again the following week. Driving home, I realized I was finally getting to know my stepbrother. Not the caricature of him I'd carried around for years, but the person underneath. The weeks turned into months. We developed a kind of cautious friendship. Coffee every couple weeks. Sometimes talking. Sometimes just sitting in silence, letting the past breathe between us. And slowly, unbelievably, I watched him change. He stuck with both jobs. Opened a bank account. Paid his rent. Built a routine. Part of me kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, for some scam, some manipulation, some reveal that it was all an act. But it never came. 4 months after his surprise visit to my condo, he texted me. "Coffee? Usual spot?" When I walked in, he was grinning from ear to ear. "I got promoted at the warehouse," he announced proudly. "Shift supervisor. Better pay. Regular hours." "That's awesome, Tyler," I said, genuinely smiling. "Congratulations." "And," he added, almost sheepish, "I'm quitting the gas station. I'm gonna use those evening hours to get my GED." I blinked, impressed. "Wow, you're really doing this, aren't you?" He nodded, his cheeks flushing with both pride and embarrassment. "Yeah. Turns out I don't suck at everything." "Who knew?" "I knew," I said softly before I could stop myself. "That's why I offered you that job back at Thanksgiving." His face faltered a little, guilt flickering across it. "Yeah, about that. I'm sorry I was such a jerk. That could have been a good opportunity." "Well," I said, leaning forward, "maybe when you get your GED we can revisit it. My bank is always hiring." His eyes widened. "You'd still help me? After everything?" "People deserve second chances," I said firmly. "And you're proving you actually want one." We spent the rest of that coffee meetup talking about his GED requirements, what kind of classes he'd need, and even tossing around the idea of what positions might open at my bank down the road. It felt surreal. After everything we'd been through, here I was, actually planning a future that included Tyler in a positive way. That night, my phone buzzed. It was Mom. "Alexandra," she began, her voice softer than I'd ever heard it. "I wanted to thank you." "For what?" I asked cautiously. "For whatever you said to Tyler. He's doing so well now. Tom and I are really proud of him." I swallowed hard. "I didn't do anything, Mom. Tyler made these changes himself." "But you gave him a chance," she pressed. "When you had every reason not to." "And her voice wavered, "I know I didn't always do right by you growing up." My grip on the phone tightened. I wasn't prepared for this conversation. "Mom, you don't have to." "Yes, I do," she cut in quickly. "I've been talking to someone too. A therapist." She gave a small, nervous laugh. "Seems like everyone in this family's in therapy now except you." "Who says I'm not?" I shot back automatically, though the truth was I wasn't. "Fair enough." Her tone softened. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry. For a lot of things. And I'm grateful you're giving me another chance too." I didn't know how to respond. So I simply said, "Thanks, Mom." After we hung up, I sat on my balcony under the night sky, staring at the stars. Thinking about how much had shifted in less than a year, from that disastrous Thanksgiving to this. Whatever this new version of family was becoming. 6 months later, Tyler passed his GED with flying colors. I took him out to dinner to celebrate, and he shocked me by bringing Mom and Tom along. Even more shocking? It was actually pleasant. Tom was quieter, less domineering than the man I remembered from my childhood. Mom seemed more present, actually listening when people spoke instead of just waiting to defend Tyler. At the end of the night, Tyler pulled me aside, a mischievous grin on his face. "I have something for you," he said, handing me an envelope. Inside was a check. For $15,000. The exact amount I'd given him that Thanksgiving. "Tyler, you don't have to do this." "Yes, I do," he insisted. I've been saving up. The promotion helped and I've been living super cheap. He grinned wider. Plus, I got that entry-level position at your bank's downtown branch. Thanks for putting in a good word. You earned that job on your own, I told him. Your interview scores were excellent. Still, he said firmly, I wouldn't be here without your help. He tapped the check. And this is just the beginning. I'm going to pay back every cent you covered for the hospital too. I tried to argue, but he held his ground. His voice was steady, his eyes clear. This isn't just about money, Alex. It's about responsibility. It's about being the kind of man who honors his debts. Looking at him then, determined and proud, I realized he needed this more than I needed the money. So I accepted the check, simply saying, thank you. Later that week, over lunch, Barbara leaned across the table. So, how's family life these days? I laughed softly. Surprisingly good. It's like I've got this whole new family I never expected. And you're sure Tyler's changed for real? Not just putting on a show. I thought about it seriously. I think so. It's been nearly a year. No red flags. He's working hard, saving money, even talking about community college next year. Barbara nodded slowly. People can change when they hit rock bottom. Sounds like that accident was his wake-up call. That, I added, and Tom changing the locks. Sometimes consequences are the only thing that makes people face themselves. So what happens now? She asked. I smiled faintly. We just keep building. One coffee meetup at a time. That evening I got a text from Tyler. Downtown branch manager wants me to train for the personal banking team. This is all because of you. I typed back, no, it's because of you. I'm just glad you're doing well. His reply came almost instantly, family dinner at Mom's this Sunday. Don't worry, I'll protect you from Tom's new health food kick. Apparently kale is his whole personality now. I laughed out loud in my kitchen, shaking my head before texting back, sure. I'll bring dessert. And as I set the phone down, it hit me. The twisted family dynamic that had defined my childhood was gone. We weren't perfect, not even close. But we were all trying. All changing. Tyler and I would never have the picture-perfect sibling bond. There were too many scars, too much history. But we'd forged something else. A cautious friendship built on hard conversations, second chances, and the choice to see each other not just for who we had been, but for who we were becoming. For the first time in my life, I felt like I had a brother. And maybe that was enough. Thanks for watching. Today's train wreck is over, but tomorrow's ride is already on track. Subscribe so you don't miss it.